Hey guys, NSC Schizo here, coming at you with another Game Grunts production. Something most people don't really cover a lot in their videos I've seen on YouTube and Facebook when it comes to Fallout is duplication glitches. The issues that we're having in the game with duplications, how rampant they are, how bogged down Bethesda is by having to, kind of curtail those issues. And on top of that, what issues those are kind of bleeding over into PvP, or exactly how it's affecting the rest of the game. There are always players in games who like to manipulate the game to duplicate things. Doesn't matter what game that you deal with. However, I think the way that Fallout 76 works, it's actually a little bit different than most cases. Just in the fact that the way aid works and the way aid actually helps you get through certain situations, especially when it comes to PvP. Some aid is so strong, and some aid it isn't really meant to have at such a plentiful level. Like, let's take, for instance, a Nuka Cola Quantum. The way Nuka Quantums work and the way Nuka Quantums stack, if a player has about six of them, then they have a distinct advantage in a certain situation. Like, if I wanted to run up to the queen and fight the queen for about a 30-second interval or a spurt and not really take any damage, I would quickly pop about 5 to 6 Nuka Cola Quantums, enabling me to run in and kind of handle the amount of DPS that she's about to dish out as a bloody character. But let's say if I have 500 Nuka Cola Quantums, then my character is essentially put into God mode. Now, I know that sounds a little excessive, but there are some cases and some scenarios where some players actually do have that many Nuka Cola Quantums on their person. There are weight reduction cards that they can put into their character to allow them to have that many Nuka Quantums on them at once, including the rest of their inventory. So it's very possible for somebody to place themselves into God mode just by being able to acquire that many Nuka Quantums through duplication processes. And let's be clear, even if you were to server hop, there would be no way that you could acquire that many Nuka Cola Quantums, right? I could see you having maybe 2 to 300 of a different kind, a mixture of different kinds of Nuka Colas, but not actual 500 to 1,000 Nuka Cola Quantums, right? And the biggest problem with that is how fast you're actually able to spam those items. See, PvP isn't really balanced because of aid. Duplication allows players to be able to spam something that shouldn't necessarily be spammed. An object that should be more scarce in the game, that would be more scarce in the game if they actually went to go try to find those provisions, they wouldn't be able to find that many. They would be able to use them in spurts and in moments when they thought it was applicable. And then they would be able to turn around and kind of gain an advantage in battle through those moments, through those, decisions of popping those chems. But if you have 5 to 600 Nuka Cola Quantums on you at a time, it's nothing just to continuously spam them. Versus if you only had six and you physically had to walk back to the Nuka Cola Quantum plant every time you wanted a Nuka Cola. And then you have to consider the fact that a lot of these players actually have mule accounts, entire accounts dedicated. So you're talking Stealth Boys, Buffets, Psycho Buffs, Psycho Tats, Barry Mentats, anything you can think of, right? Just of the same item over and over and over and over, and that entire account is filled with that item. That person may have six different accounts, but one main account and one secondary account, which they transfer the items back and forth through. Now, this is why I believe that PvP hasn't gotten the attention that it deserves from Bethesda. I believe they're fully aware of these issues and they would rather just kind of sweep them under the rug and pretend that the community isn't interested in PvP because, they're a single player community. But I mean, even in that context and argument, you could say, yeah, sure, a lot of people who play Fallout expect to play a single player game. But then, I mean, how many people do you know that play single player games that don't also play multiplayer games? I mean, are there a lot of players that really only play single player games? I love single player games. Don't get me wrong. I play them all the time. I think they're great. I started off playing single player games, but I remember as a young child thinking how fun it would be to have a multiplayer situation where I had to fight someone else on the other side of the console, right? So I'm not sure that they could really sell me on the fact that their players don't want to quote unquote PvP. I think this is the real issue. They don't know what to do about the AIDS situation. And they're struggling with it. And so, because of that, they don't want to try to bring PvP to the forefront by bringing another, adventure mode into the game. This is why I think they took out adventure mode because it just didn't work for certain players. Now, another reason that I think adventure mode didn't do well because initially the game was only PVE, then they added adventure mode into the game, and you can essentially just switch your character back and forth. You were totally geared towards PVE in the beginning. A lot of players weren't really even geared towards PvP just because of the sheer amount of things that there were to do in PvE and the small scope of things that we had to do in PvP, which was essentially just workbenches early on. So, how could you expect people to allocate their points into PvP? It would make no sense to do so. But then, whenever adventure mode came into the game, it just kind of opened up this whole new PvP window, doorway, I guess you could say, where people, oh, well, I'm going to go see what that's like. And then they go into adventure mode not knowing that it's going to be so grueling and so punishing because of the way that builds work in the game and the way that aid is so rampant in the game. And most of those players probably aren't even duplicating or doing any of those things or even privy to any of that PvP style culture. And it has to be like that because, I mean, it's just the way it is. If another player has that in PvP, it's the meta. You're going to match the meta. You just have to. If you want to have any hope in trying to beat that person, you're going to have to match their play style. In every PvP game that I play, unless a game creator does something to kind of curve that or put a leash on that type of activity, then that play style becomes rampant normally, and most people, spam that tactic. And there's no respec system in the game, so you're pretty much boxed into your early on decisions. So if you want to try to change up your armor and change up your guns, that's fine, but you still have all your perk cards and all your special points that you need to deal with, right? Especially if you weren't really contemplating that early on. Those mistakes have already been made. You can't respec out of that. You could level up and then continuously try to slowly change that, but besides power leveling yourself like 120 levels and then respecking, there is no other way to do that. That takes a lot of time, a lot of play time to be able to do that. So it's no wonder that people don't have the time to try to switch back and forth between PvP to PvE. And the way that the new endgame armor from Wastelanders is looking, I'm predicting a storm at this point. They've got duplication glitches that are alive and rampant again. They've added a brand new endgame armor scheme where in a couple weeks there are going to be some very powerful players out there that are going to be destroying the old meta builds. Alright, guys, my name's NSC Schizo. This has been another Game Grumps production. If you guys are having any problems with PvP and not understanding the issues, I hope that this is a little bit enlightening. If you guys got any issues with anything that I said or maybe disagree, please do me a favor, leave something in the comments. I would love to read what you guys have to say or what it is you guys think about the situation. You know, why is Bethesda hiding PvP? Why are they pretending like we don't exist, right? We're out here. We want to kill each other. So do me a favor, guys. Leave a sub, leave a follow, leave a like. All right. My name's NSC Schizo. This is another Game Grumps production. NSC Schizo here, man. Signing out.